There's a type of person who gets invited somewhere, and instead of feeling excited, they feel relief when they realize they don't have to go. Not because they're sad, not because they're awkward, but because they genuinely prefer being alone. And for a long time, people assumed something must be wrong with them. But psychology is starting to say something very different. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. One feels like something is missing. The other feels like nothing is. And that distinction changes everything. For years, anyone who enjoyed solitude got labeled the same way: introverted, antisocial, disconnected. But those labels were too simple, because not everyone who prefers being alone is avoiding people. Some people are choosing something else. Researchers eventually gave it a name: unsociability. Not antisocial, not avoidant, just a calm preference for your own company. And when they studied these people, something unexpected showed up. They weren't struggling. They were doing just fine. In some ways, better. So what's actually happening here? Why do some people feel restored in solitude while others feel drained by it? Part of the answer comes from how their brain processes stimulation. For most people, social interaction creates a strong reward response: energy, laughter, connection. But for people who prefer solitude, that stimulation hits faster, stronger. They don't need as much to feel full. Think of it like volume. Some people need the music loud to feel anything. Others hear every detail at half the level. And after a while, more noise doesn't feel good. It feels overwhelming. But there's something else happening too. When they're alone, their mind doesn't go quiet. It goes deeper. The part of the brain linked to reflection, problem solving, and internal processing becomes more active. They're not doing nothing. They're thinking, connecting ideas, replaying experiences, understanding things. Most people never slow down enough to notice. That's why insight rarely shows up in crowded rooms. It shows up when everything gets quiet. In the shower, on a walk, late at night, when there's finally space to hear yourself think. But here's where it gets important. Not all solitude comes from the same place. Some people choose to be alone because it feels right. Others stay alone because it feels safer. And those are not the same thing. There's a question worth asking. Do you enjoy solitude, or do you hide inside it? Healthy solitude comes from fullness. You've experienced connection. You know it's available. You're not escaping people. You're returning to yourself. But when solitude becomes protection from rejection, from discomfort, from being seen, that's something else. Not wrong, not broken, but something worth being honest about. Because the people who truly thrive alone aren't disconnected. They've just learned something most people haven't. They've learned they are already whole. They don't see relationships as something that completes them. They see them as something they choose. And that changes how they connect. They don't cling. They don't depend on one person to meet every need. They build connections from stability, not emptiness. And because of that, they often show up better in relationships. They're not drained, not resentful, not looking to be fixed. They're present because they've already spent time being present with themselves. There's a kind of strength in that doesn't look loud, but it runs deep. And in some cultures, this isn't seen as strange at all. It's normal, even respected. There are places where eating alone isn't awkward, where time alone isn't questioned, where being by yourself is just part of life. But in many places, being alone still gets misunderstood. People assume it means something is missing, when sometimes it means nothing is. So if you're someone who genuinely enjoys being alone, there's something you should understand. You're not behind. You're not disconnected. You're not failing socially. Your brain simply restores itself in a different way. But still, be honest with yourself. Can you connect when you want to? Do you have people you trust? Are you choosing solitude or avoiding something? Because the healthiest relationship with being alone is one where it's a choice, not a shield. And when it is a choice, something interesting happens. You stop needing constant noise. You stop chasing distraction. You become comfortable with your own thoughts. And in a world that never stops talking, that might be one of the rarest abilities you can have. So the next time someone asks why you like being alone, you don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You can just say, I'm not avoiding people. I just don't need noise to feel complete. And most people won't understand that, but the ones who do will understand immediately. And that's usually enough.